And then they said, and then we went on to the next task, which was to accompany these people, blind people, when they came off the planes from Latin America, from all these countries, to get operated on. So what is the purpose of that? What does it do? It sensitizes young people who perhaps weren't involved in being part of the revolution. They're firsthand seeing what their country is doing. We're helping solve problems, and we're also seeing what we're doing in other countries. That's a very living revolution. And these are the things, this is what you get when you go on a trip to Cuba. Not as a tourist, by the way.
Yeah, I'm really concerned, actually. I am not cool with 500,000 layoffs. And I know it's easy to say, well, it's a really poor country, and how can you judge? But I think you pointed out that there is quite a bit of corruption, something Fidel himself said. I'm really concerned that they are going to go down the Chinese route, which I don't consider a good thing at all. I think this is a counter-revolution. I think there's in the beginning stages of one. I don't know who's behind it. I don't know what exactly is the future for Cuba, but I know that, at least in my view, what real communists should be doing is fighting against this. Fighting for internationalizing the Cuban Revolution, fighting for, having them. Fidel said, when I said that, what I meant was the exact opposite of what I said. So I'm guessing what he meant was he's for not the Cuban model, but for the international model. I don't know. Maybe that's what he meant. Maybe he's meant something else. No one can decipher it.
How do you think Cuba should internationalize the revolution?
Well, I think, first of all, Hugo Chavez made a call for the Fifth International. Have the Cuban Communist Party join it, They've had, since the 60s, they've had the ability to start an international party. Based on their revolution, they haven't done it, I've been a huge supporter of Fidel Castro. Like, I never said a single thing against him the entire time I've been a socialist until I found out about this, and I was just flabbergasted.
About the 500,000?
About the 500,000, and well, the first thing was when I first heard him say that, when he said, the Cuban model no longer works for us anymore. And then when I heard his explanation for it, it made absolutely no sense to me. And then when I heard the 500,000 people being laid off, that made complete sense to me with what he originally said. And so I feel totally betrayed, frankly.
But it's not your revolution.
But that's the thing, is it is. It's an international class, so it's everyone's revolution, And I guess maybe that's the difference between like my tendency and the PSL.
Then can you tell me, if it's your revolution, what are you doing here to fight the blockade and stuff? I really got to ask you that because, we're really not doing enough in this country to stop U.S. policy.
Oh, I agree.
And I think to a large degree, it's really not the fault of the people who don't know, but we do know in this room. And that's why I think that it takes a lot of effort, but we got to let people know about it. I know, I hear what you're saying, but I got to tell you, you're taking one quote that the media flew around the world with from a right-winger, Jeffrey Goldberg. You're taking it from a man who is like a conspiracy theorist and a blatant right-winger Zionist. And I knew when people called me the other day and said, Gloria, what did he say? I said, I know exactly what Fidel's saying because they're having to go through some big changes that they've been announcing actually for 2 years now, actually since 2007. Raul said this. They said, we are not going to be able to sustain 1 million. We have 1 million jobs in excess. Actually, they said 1 million jobs. And Fidel also said recently to the Venezuelan media, some of the media said to him, well, what do you really mean by socialism, Fidel? They said, isn't there a new way to see socialism? Meaning, some of these people I think were wanting to have like a more kind of a moderate socialism. And he said, what I mean by socialism is communism. He will die a Marxist-Leninist, and someone who proved it by winning state power in a situation where nobody dreamed that was possible. He's a singular figure in history.
What about Raul, though?
Raul is his side-by-side brother. I think they think very much alike. But it's not a brother, it's not even Fidel anymore. It's a country that's gone through 50 years of experience. And I have to tell you, there's been predictions for its fall since 1959, and especially since 1989, 1990, 1991, when all of Eastern Europe fell. And the reason Cuba survived of the party. The Communist Party of Cuba, you know, it's very hard to join the party. You cannot, it's not like other parties where there was privilege built in or whatever. It's a very hard party to join. Basically, it's about 10% of the population, but your neighbors have to approve of your membership. Your co-workers who are not party members have to approve of you joining the Communist Party. So that means that the workers and the neighbors, their expectation is Juan a good fighter? Is he good to his family? Is he a good worker? And so it's very interesting that the whole population has a say in who becomes a member. And here's another example. As part of my document that's going to be published on our website, there are two very famous Cubans who were just recently removed from the party and from foreign ministry, and the second vice president of the revolution. And that is a very good sign. Why? Because Gloria La Riva, who was actually the second vice president of this Council of State. I don't know if you guys know who he was, but he's in his 50s, and he was highly regarded. I had great admiration for him for many years. He was an economist. He's actually a trained doctor. He was very, very high up. Many people thought he might end up being someday president. And Felipe Perez Roque, who was the foreign minister. He was the youngest foreign minister ever, you know, under 40 years old. He was like 36 years old. But they were removed because they got caught in a entrapment by the Spanish intelligence services. It's a long story, but basically right after Obama's election, the second in command of Spain's intelligence came into Cuba. And there was a whole operation to entrap them making comments against their leadership, these two men, which they fell for. And they basically, they were very, very revolutionary, but they got caught up in privilege. Privilege. It happens, you know. They go to parties, they go here and there, they started making comments. And they were filmed and videotaped by the Spanish intelligence. And they revealed who the next president and vice president was going to be of the country before it was made public. That's a no-no. Why? Because the US CIA has always tried to track who are the likely successors for the purpose of assassination. And they've tried to assassinate Fidel 600 times. Cuba has to protect itself against these attacks. Well, these men were removed. And even though they were very, very high up, there's nobody who can exist in a privileged situation for long in that party.
They were in the what, though?
Let me tell you something. They were in the party. They were highly regarded. They did something that merited their being removed from the party. And when you have someone that high up who the party says no more, I think that's a very good sign. And not only that, every member of the Communist Party was brought into meetings to watch the hearings that were held exposing what they had done. They didn't commit any crimes. They just had become weakened morally. And I think that's a very strong, healthy sign of a revolutionary party like Cuba's. And what did it do? What did it do to the Cuban people in the midst of trying to fight this? Any problems that come up, corruption, strengthening the revolution, defending the revolution. You know, corruption is not a specific feature of socialism. It's like a million times more in the capitalist system just by its operation. We should just remember that. But what it did by telling every communist in the country what some of the highly respected people had done, it made everybody realize this is serious. And if it happens to them, we can't accept it from anybody. It's a long story, but you know, you need to go to Cuba, and you need to talk to everybody, and you need to go with an open mind. And you have to understand, you have no idea how hard it is there. You know, a lot of people go there for a nice trip, and they go, man, I want to live there. I go, no, you don't. Americans couldn't live there. You couldn't live with 1/10 of the things. You couldn't live there. But they can. And they're very proud of their country. In the middle of the special period, Fidel spoke to the Women's Federation. And it was their fifth, you know, all the mass organizations have a Congress every 5 years. And he spoke to them and addressed them and said, "You all look so beautiful," because you know the women always dress up very nice for these events. And he said, the dresses that you're wearing right now, you may have them in 5 years. You may be wearing the same dresses 10 years from now, because we are in for a very, very severe period. And the women got up and gave him a standing ovation for that comment. And I once sat with a taxi driver. Taxi drivers are the greatest, you know. You get all these kind of stories in any country. And this man said, "You know, I'm not a communist. I'm a Fidelista." He said, "But you name me any president